So, should we cancel next week's meeting? Is everybody going to be out, or most people are going to be out?
I mean, 4 people so far have put that they're going to be out.
Okay.
So, um, I'm not going to be there. This is basically what's happening. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's probable there wouldn't be much to discuss anyway.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, let's just cancel it officially here, and then people can get together and chat,
Yeah.
obviously, if they want to.
Sounds good
So
to me.
why don't I actually cancel it in the Google Calendar? So let me do that. Oh, somebody's already done that, right? Or no? Oh, I said no. Okay, so is there a way to delete it?
Yeah, you can just delete that single instance.
Okay. But does
Yeah.
that delete it for everybody?
You have to delete it
Yes,
from the team meeting calendar, I think, though, not from your calendar, from what I remember from other meetings.
Right. Okay, so the purple one, this event, 26. Oh, okay, great. Yep, I think that worked. Okay, so that's done. And then the following week, I may or may not be here for myself. My kid is starting daycare, so I don't know if they'll be able to handle it without me being in the daycare with a laptop, so we'll figure that out. So any other sort of logistic things we need to talk about before we move on to awesome things? If not, Annabelle, do you want to just grab the screen, or if you need to, or whatever, so you can go ahead.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm just starting server. It's taking a while. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Yeah, someone told me before how to minimize the participants' images. Oh, it's okay, I'll put them on a different screen. Okay. For the scrolling roadmap, yeah, thanks for highlighting that, Pedro. We talked about a few different things. We talked about adding a date picker and doing all these other cool things, but for a first pass, and I think this actually works pretty well, we were just going to start scrolling horizontally, and the new epics will just kind of pop in and out. If you're on create a date, it won't ever pop in the middle because it'll pop at the top or the bottom depending on how you have it sorted. But for things like last updated, there's a chance you could scroll into a new version, or into the future or past, and something will come out of nowhere into the middle of this list. So I talked to Fatih a little bit, and we got a pretty, it's not great, this demo, but it does show what we could do. The animation isn't great. So this is the one that the epics will just appear out of nowhere, but it does fade in a little bit. So you start scrolling, and okay, 2 more just appeared. I don't know how that looked, but and then you keep going and another one should appear. And then the same thing happens the opposite way, it just disappears. And
I love it.
I think that's fine. It looks good.
Okay, good. But wait, there's more.
There's more. Yeah, it's Christmas. Yeah.
The other version is if we decide to do a button, which looks more like this. So you'll scroll a little bit, and then a button appears here. It doesn't have to appear here. It can go anywhere. And then when you click it, they appear. Then this should probably go away, and maybe it should say new epics have been loaded. And then, it'll come back, I guess, if you keep scrolling, or if you go back in time, maybe it'll ask you not to load new epics, but just to refresh where you are. So right now it looks kind of weird, and you don't want to scroll, hit the button over and over, but I was thinking it could be cool if we did something like Airbnb and probably other apps, but if you scroll around on a map, you can redo the search in an area, or you can keep this check mark toggled and scroll, and it'll just keep redrawing the map with all the new listings, which I find kind of annoying, but I like that you can choose, to drag, and then redo the search, or you can have it repopulate every time.
Why do you find it annoying?
Yeah, I always
Well-
have that enabled.
What, to redraw when you have?
Yeah, like I always I'm just like, if I'm moving the map, it's because I want to see what's there, right?
Sometimes I haven't used Airbnb in a while, but I would look for a specific spot. I'd be like, well, I don't want to be in Shipley Bridge. So I'll start scrolling, and I find it really annoying when things just keep on popping. Like, oh, I want to go to Brighton. Let me zoom in, find the exact area I want to be in without all these things popping up all the time.
So I guess that's more of like a performance thing. So like if this is supposed to be an analogy of the physical map, then things shouldn't pop in. They should just be there. And so you're saying because you don't have that perfect performance, it's annoying to you, Annabelle, that things are popping in.
It might be a good for performance, but also if you're looking at these, and I don't even think these are in order, by the way, so they're in the dates. But if you really want to just see like a specific area of the map, pretend
Right.
you really want to get over here, and then load the new ones instead of them popping in and out
Right.
constantly while you're scrolling.
Because this I think a little bit different because the map itself, the physical geography doesn't change, whereas this one, if the analogy is the vertical space is the physical map in this one, it does change. So I think that's a little bit different, right? So if anything, the map one, I think nobody would complain if there's perfect performance and it's like a physical paper map. You just move it around and things just appear in 100% infinite frequency.
With the pop-in one, the first one that you showed where they just sort of appear automatically, I really like that, but I wonder if I really like that because you were sort of scrolling slowly and saying like, wait for it, something's going to show up. I wonder if like you feel
Right.
differently about it if you just like flick, like you said, just going specifically to somewhere and then you're like, oh, this moved down one, why did this move down one? If it's below something that
Yeah,
in.
and it's especially jarring if you have one sort of hovered. I think it's the second one that pops in. So if you're hovering this one, it like
Right. That's
hover.
I think that's the.
Yeah, so I think that's why we all thought the first demo was amazing. Partly was because you were just like, it's going to pop in, and then it pops in, and you're like, yeah, that seems perfect. Like, why would we want to do anything else? I get the problem more now when you show it that way.
Yeah, and I prefer. I had some problems with the animation. I'm using just fade in and fade out, and that's not what would be. We would like to sort of change the height so it would grow in and it wouldn't just kind of pop in like that, which might look a little better, but that doesn't fix the hover kind of jumping.
I think it's fine. Like, well,
So
maybe it's also because there's only like one or two popping in, so it's not crazy. But yeah, Pedro, go ahead.
So one thing that it's, I think, so when you're moving and they pop in, the actual blue bars should, in theory, be appearing on the right, and not in the middle of.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. Just to be clear. Okay.
Oh, yeah, this is not. I mean, we've got two epics appearing on the same.
On the same row as
Yeah.
well.
No. I know it's not perfect. I was just wondering if in the end
That would
that
help. Yeah.
No, I don't think that's. Doesn't it depend on what you're sorting by, or am I just completely confused?
Yeah, it does. So if you're sorting by create date or start date or due date, I think.
So if you're sorting by start date, say, then the leftmost edge of any new blue bar that comes in will always be in a particular place,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yep.
But if you're sorting by last updated, that has no relevance to the bars on here because these bars aren't anything to do with when the epic was updated or created, right? They're just to do with when it's starting and when it's due, I think.
That's
No,
right, but they still
yeah.
wouldn't appear in view. The fact that they appear in view depends on the start date and end date of the bar.
exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So but what I mean is it's
But
not
they always still appear in from the direction that you're scrolling toward.
Exactly. Yeah.
right. Okay, I get that. Yeah.
So it might look weird. They might be all scattered, but at least the jarring nature of the thing is always like vertically you see things jump, but horizontally it's maybe not as terrible because they're always coming in the direction that you expect them to be as you're scrolling toward it. So that maybe that's something to account for. I think is web pager is highlighted.
I really like the popping in and out. I thought, and that's why I suggested doing a demo, because in my mind I was trying to imagine how it could look like, and
Right.
I thought maybe it could look really bad, but I don't think it's really, when you're navigating and you're,
Right.
again, the purpose of this is for you to be able to browse and look what's coming in the future, looking what's coming in the past, and comparing the epics that are in view. I think it really works well. And again, you can, if you want to compare what's in the future and what's in the past at a higher level, you can always switch between quarters, months, and weeks. Right. And that zoom level will give you the granularity that you want to view.
Annabelle, would you mind sort of scrolling again, but now you've sorted by start date?
Well, I have it set to just show the first, second, and eighth.
Oh, right.
It's going to look like this no matter what.
Oh, right. It's just a demo.
It's very hard coded.
Right. So basically, it always comes in at position 2. Got it.
Just like
what I was just thinking was, like, I don't know how common it will be to be doing this sort of action when you're not sorting by start date or end date.
That's also a good point. That's also a good point.
Because, like, I think those are valid things to sort by, but I feel like if you're looking at the roadmap view and you're going right or left, that's because you care about the start and end dates.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
Which
that's
is somewhere, you know, I'm not saying people won't do it. I'm saying, like, people won't probably do it and have that be what they want to be doing.
So you're saying if that's the case, then things should appear just at the top or at the bottom anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's right, isn't it, Annabelle? If you're sorting by start or end date, they will always appear at the top or the bottom, but never in the middle.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming that, which is why I selected last updated, which is a weird thing to sort by. Probably not weird, but it's probably less common.
Yeah, but that also makes me wonder, what is the use case for having the last updated and created?
That was there, I think, just for consistency.
Yeah, I mean, for consistency, it makes sense.
Well, maybe it should just be removed because this exception we're finding.
Yeah, we could just decouple it completely, I guess, because
the default the default in the roadmap view is created date, right, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for the list, like created and updated make perfect sense.
Makes total sense. Yep.
Yeah. The idea is that when you go from the list to the roadmap, then they should be in the same order, but I'm not sure that's necessarily true.
Yeah.
Because, like,
maybe that's not true.
Yeah. So maybe.
And so being created date, the default option for sorting, if someone doesn't change that and they start scrolling, they're not going to have the best default experience for.
Well, like, I wouldn't even worry about that, because like any sensible person arriving at the roadmap I would assume immediately click the drop down to get it.
But we cannot.
Isn't this sort saved with the list though? Isn't this synced with the list? So if you
exactly, so that's the problem, right? So if you're in the, well, I mean, that's already a problem, I guess. So you're in the list view, you want created at, because that's probably like 90% of the case, and then you go to roadmap view, and then you want one of start date or due date, and then you're always changing it already, and so that's already a poor experience.
Yeah. So Annabelle, if you couldn't sort by last updated or created at in this view, which option do you think would work better? Option
with the button, or just having them popping in?
Yeah.
I'm probably just this, since it's not going to be as strange. But if we want to just do this, I think this would be good for a first start anyway, and we can see if it's annoying or anything like that, and people are confused as to why everything's shifting. And if it is, then we can add something later that maybe you can disable the automatic fetching of new epic.
Like the Airbnb version.
Exactly. But yeah, like you said, it's probably not going to be a problem, but it would be easy to iterate on this design.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing these two versions as iteration steps, regardless of which one goes first. Right. Like, we can add this one first automatically going in. I think the only thing that I would pitch in as feedback that we could potentially enhance this version is having some sort of announcement that we're going to update the UI. So I wouldn't say like a loading thing, because sometimes you might be getting a refresh and you don't get anything back. But once you get new things, instead of just showing them right away, having a spinner saying updating epics, and then we update them. Even if you have to delay it on the UI, I think it'll be more like easy to process for the users. And as a second step, having the option of having it not auto update as you scroll and doing it with a button would be a good improvement. Or the other way around. I think it will work beautifully either way. But like everyone, I think it looks better than I expected when you see it, when you actually see it. So thank you for putting this together, Annabelle.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree with Andre. I think, but this is, I think, is not part of this prototype work to think about the loading state. But I agree with Andre that we should think about how if it's taking a bit longer to display the epics, and as an introduction to this new way of seeing things in the future and in the past, how are we going to load them in? Yeah, but that's a separate thing.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because I didn't think about that deeply, because with other UIs, you can always put a loading spinner, which I don't like. I like skeletons, but whatever, right? So you can always put that the moment the front end sends a signal to the back end, right? And then so here, to me, that's not necessarily true, because you're scrolling in the canvas, which is a little bit different from you're making an update on the front end, right? So like the concepts are a little bit different, I think, because you're moving in time. And so do you just, like, when do you tell the user that you're attempting to look, and like, do you need to tell the user? So I think that's an interesting problem on its own.
It's definitely different than pushing a button.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Explicit action versus explicit. And again, this will be a very silent feature that will be surprising. When they start using it, they will just trip on it, which one is good, right? They will discover it very easily just by scrolling. The other could be surprising. There's like that usability mantra of like, every action should be initiated by the user.
Right.
This one, it will be initiated by the user, but they don't know about it.
Yeah, it's almost a secondary thing, right? You're moving a map. If we take the Airbnb thing, you're moving a map around, and what does that mean, right? Yeah.
Right.
And I think our problem is harder than the map thing, for like what I said earlier about like the vertical space. It's actually a harder problem from a design perspective, because there's more degree of dimensionality, even though 2D is more than 1D. Well, no, I guess this is 2D, right? Because there's this and this. So.
And about the sorting, I think it's fair if we create an issue to discuss decoupling the two, sorting from the list and the roadmap, if that allows us to have a better experience for the roadmap as default. Because
I think so.
I don't disagree with you, Victor, that people will immediately change the sorting. I think we should do a good job just to have the best.
Oh yeah, no. That my point wasn't that we shouldn't do it, but that's what they would do now. So that like they would. My point is that they would change it. Yeah,
they could do it, but I don't think it's fair for us to put that on the user.
Definitely, I agree with you. Yeah, definitely
like
agree.
You need to change to have a better experience if you want.
Yeah.
Just something. What do you think, Annabelle?
I'm sorry, my daughter is really making a lot of noises.
Okay.
What were you saying? The users don't go to the last updated.
So one thing that Sean pointed out, very good point, was the different behaviors when we have the different sorting types. And for this particular view in the roadmap, maybe the last updated and created dates don't make that much sense to have those controls. And I was suggesting eventually creating another issue to have a separate discussion and don't affect this idea, but to discuss the possibility of decoupling the sorting of the roadmap from the list view, and eventually probably removing created date and last updated from the sorting options here in the roadmap view. Because created date is the default for both lists and roadmap, and they are tied together. So you change on one side, it changes on the roadmap, and vice versa.
Okay, yeah. I think we should definitely create an issue to discuss that. I know there's already an issue to remove the list view altogether, so this might be somewhat related.
Oh, that's far away. Yeah. I think there's an argument against that, right?
Yeah.
Not really. Yeah. Sorry. So that being said, I was going to say created date. So that's not useful at all because with issues, I find created date to be very helpful. And
for the roadmap, we're saying for the roadmap.
For the roadmap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's not
removing it for the roadmap. Only created it and last date.
Right. So to summarize,
no, I know. My question was: is it really not helpful to create a date to see epics?
It is helpful in the list view.
In the list view, yeah.
Because you always
that's why
see what
default, right? Because if it's a very very dumb user, right? And I think it's good for us to assume that they create an epic and then they see it immediately on the top of the list. They don't need to change the sorting to see or reverse the order as well to see their new created epic. But here in roadmap, we are only showing epics that have defined dates.
Right. Now, when you say it's tied to it, I don't know if it's because just locally I broke it, but I have this set to due date on the list view and refreshing it doesn't change it. What do you mean by it's tied to that?
If you remove the parameter from the URL, if you just click roadmap on the, or that, yeah. And okay, and now the epics, if you remove the parameter as well. Yeah, now it's set to due date. So maybe now you have to refresh on the other side, yeah.
Okay. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm trying on Pride, it works. So I think decoupling would be pretty uncontroversial, I think, at least amongst us, and we would do it. But then taking the stab of actually removing last updated and created from the roadmap view, it's like, I personally don't care if we leave it, but
I don't have a strong opinion as well, to be honest. As long as the default is it's the best experience for users that are just starting out and they don't necessarily need to understand in depth how the sorting behaves. Andre, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one of the things that if we had usage data, we could go in and see how many people are actually using those. Because when you're removing stuff, there's always going to be like, hey, where's my stuff? But in this case, I don't anticipate it to be very controversial. But like Victor said, I think one is very straightforward, decoupling. We just can create that issue and schedule it. The other we have to discuss a little bit more. But other than that, I think it makes perfect sense.
So just to be clear, when we decouple them, we would say that your saved setting for the list sort no longer applies to the roadmap, and the default for the roadmap is either due date or start dates at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can we make a decision now, or can we have a suggested decision, and I'll just put in the issue?
I prefer start date because I look from the left edge, but other people
I do too. But then the other people, I've heard people care about due date if you're like a executive, right? I care about start dates. It's like I actually. It's just a default. Like you'll literally change it the first time, and then you'll never remember.
I'm fine either way, but I think due date makes a little bit more sense just for the case that you just presented. But it's a default, so I'm fine either way. I think it will be an improvement either way, for sure.
Start date it is, because we're like the implementation team, right? Of GitLab. Think about it. Like the only reason the due date is like if you're like Sid, right? And then you're like, when will this end, right? Or when will this like I can see that's what people care about, right?
So with start date, it would appear so that the first epic would have the oldest start date.
Yes. So it'll be like more or less what. Yeah.
More or less what we have here now.
Yeah. So the left edges will be waterfall-y. Yep, like that. Yep.
Reverse waterfall.
This one looks a bit weird. Maybe it's
dummy data, so that's probably why. Okay, great. So start date it is for now.
Yeah, we can change it in this year, Pedro, if you don't like it. You can just
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't
in
have
production and have an opinion.
So if there are any other comments, feel free to say them. Otherwise, I think just we'll open an issue to talk about the drop-down options, and then anything else can go in. I'll make recordings of these or GIFs and add them to the whatever issue it is that I actually don't know if there is an issue, right? Or is this an epic?
There's an issue for this, and I think we agree, like the things that that we just allowed them to pop in, right? And so that can be the scope of the issue linked to 7325 Annabelle.
Yeah, it's in the agenda. Links.
Yeah. So I think that design, if we all like, I like it. We all agree we can take that design and have scope for that, and then we can create a separate issue for the decoupling, which I will do.
Perfect.
So number
Thanks,
3.
Annabelle and Kushal for doing the prototype.
Yeah, this is amazing. We should do more.
But that would be Fatih, because Annabelle worked with Fatih to get.
Oh, sorry, Fatih. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Fatih, if you're
Annabelle,
listening to this.
Annabelle, can you push this branch on GitLab.com so that I can check it out locally and see what's going on?
Yeah, please don't judge Fatih and myself for the code. And you have to add, I think, like 7-ish epics, or it'll just explode. So I'll push the branch and
Sure.
and message you.
We'll judge positively, right? Number 3, Sean already answered. So actually, just for my edification and knowledge, so the feature flag is such that the feature is off right now. So will 11.7, will we be shipping a change as part of 11.7 to remove the feature flag altogether? Is that what we're doing in 11.7 then?
My assumption is yes, but
Okay.
yeah, you can probably answer for certain.
Oh, so it was on me?
Yeah. So
Oh,
is the plan to remove the feature flag altogether in the code in 11.7?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we can do it in 11.6.
Right.
That's impossible almost.
So what we could do is, I'm just asking this just to be clear that I understand how features flags work. What we could do is, since we're shipping the feature in 11.6, we can
hopefully it's still
hopefully
not
okay. So
matched,
oh yeah, right. So provided we ship the feature in 11.6 with the feature flag off, then we can have production team change a configuration in the server and have the feature on. But we're saying like
We can turn it on.
we don't really need to do that since we're going to have it in an early RC anyway, so it's not worth it.
Yeah, well, we can turn it on. We just need to make sure they're aware when we turn it on.
Okay.
Which we do by turning it on in the production channel using ChatOps.
Okay. And I personally, well, let's actually wait till the feature is finished first and merge, like even if entertaining that idea. So if people are back from Christmas holidays, then we could potentially turn it on and people can try it out. But anyways, yeah. So that issue is there. Sean and Andre, go ahead for 22nd.
Yeah, so basically I think we should remove this label. I think it was useful, but there are a couple of things that have made it less useful. The first one is that the change in process for security issues and the amount of security issues that we're doing means that we basically only use this for security issues now. And that means that we've been getting pretty much everything in for the 22nd, but it's not particularly useful information from a product perspective, except that we're keeping up with the volume of security issues.
Right.
So yeah, basically there were 3 sort of objectives that we had. So it was a way for Victor to communicate priority more granular way than deliverable and stretch. Now we have a ranked list. We do it that way. That's easier and more straightforward. The second was to force ourselves to ensure that issues were scoped down appropriately. If we remove it, we don't keep that. Like, we still have to do that ourselves, but I think we've been doing a pretty good job of it. So I don't see that as a concern. And it was give everyone a clearer state of the milestone, because, if you see a bunch of G22nd issues still open on the 30th, then you know that we've got issues. That one is, but also I feel like you can just look at the board and see how many issues are in each area if they're all roughly of equivalent weight. We're the only team that's using this, so I think we can actually delete the label entirely. For security issues where we did need due 22nd because they're actually due around then, they also have due dates anyway, so you can just use the due date to see the exact date that it needs to be ready on. So yeah, hopefully that's pretty uncontroversial. I think it was useful, but I think we don't need it anymore.
Andre, are you good with that?
Yeah, I didn't have anything to add. Okay. Just that I agree with everything Sean said. The only thing I would ask is the security issues right now has been the majority, or not the majority, the 100% of the issues of the due 22nd for the past 2 milestones, I believe.
Right.
My question is to you, Victor. Do we anticipate in the future throwing something else on the due 22nd bucket, or the prioritized ranked list is enough? I agree with Sean that for now it is, but I wanted to get your perspective.
I think it is. Like, then we don't need, like, it's I think what Sean's getting at is that we're over specifying right now. We're saying the same thing with the 2 processes. So yeah, so right. So like I'll bring up 2 points. One of them is really silly. Like, you have so we'll get rid of the due 22nd label, and then we'll have a stacked rank list of issues, and the security ones will be at the top. So, like, which ones do you work on first? Like, it doesn't really matter, right? Like well, I mean, like, engineers will tell us, right? It will be Sean, Andre, and then engineering team will figure out which one to work on first. So, like, from that perspective, it's like, it doesn't matter whether it's a stacked rank list or the due 22nd label. Like, if it's a stacked rank list, you're supposed to pick up the one at the top, but I think we're, like, smart enough to know we don't have to, like, take it to the letter of the law from that perspective. So that's one sort of, like, pseudo issue if you even thought of it. And then the other one is the due date of the security issues. At least the way that I've talked with security team in the past, this may be a problem, but I don't foresee it, is that it's a way for them to tell us when something is due. And then we put the milestone and the due 22nd label to communicate back to them, yes, we will do it by the 22nd. So if they put, like, December 25th, and then we put December 22nd, then we're like, it's technically 2 pieces of data and 2 information flows, but I really don't think that would matter. But I just wanted to call it out if, like, people are really, like, specific in their communication. But, like, I really don't see this problem happening. Another point is that I think other teams may be less are more conservative. So what we've done with the due 22nd is we're essentially saying it's due on the 22nd and it will be merged right away, and it'll be able to match their due date of whether it's, like, 22nd, 23rd, or 24th. I don't know where they pick those dates from. Sometimes it's weird, right? But what I've seen, I think what other teams do is that, I don't know, actually I haven't checked, is that maybe they put it in the previous milestone so that you actually have more time. So I don't want us to do that, and I don't think we're saying we're going to do that. We're still going to put it in the same milestone. So the moment that it's merged, it's pretty much, it can be kicked out for the security release. And I think that's a good way to do it, because then we're sort of maximizing or optimizing so that we finish a security issue exactly when it's due, but no earlier than that. And the moment we run out of security issues to do, then I think that we can consider doing them sooner, but not before that. So I think that's the only really edgy case. So I think all we need to do is just literally remove the label and merge this merge request.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take care of the merging.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll remove the label once it's merged.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So number 5, just wanted to call that out because, and Winnie agrees with me, but I wanted to call this out specifically because I know in the past, whether it's myself or just in general, I haven't been, like, doing a good job of, like, prioritizing tech debt issues. So I think this particular case is, I believe, Heinrich finished the feature using non-Vue code, but the front-end team wants to do it in Vue. And so from that perspective, I think that's totally valid. So to me, the issue isn't finished, right? So because anytime you create an issue, you have a merge request, and then you shouldn't, like a product manager shouldn't be able to go to an engineering team and say like, ship this feature without fixing all the technical concerns that you've brought up in the merge request so far. So I think that's like a big no-no, and like nobody at GitLab does that anyway. So like I definitely don't want to misrepresent and say that's what I'm proposing we do here. But I think this is a special case where the backend engineer made the extra step to actually finish the feature, like to my knowledge, and let me know if that's incorrect. So if at the beginning, the backend engineer didn't actually finish the feature and said like, oh, we're gonna have to wait till front end to do it, and the front end comes in and says like, we're gonna have to do this in Vue, then I totally agree, then like we do not merge this in because there's literally nothing to merge. But in this particular case, the backend engineer took the extra step to implement the front end piece. And so to me, then the feature is complete from that perspective and therefore can be merged. But I wanted to respect the technical dev process and schedule the issue right away. Not schedule it right away, like if it can be done in this iteration because we have a stack length list of priorities now, let's do it. If not, then it's just in the next list. It's just the next most highest priority item. And so if it makes it in 11.7, it does. If it's not, then it goes into 11.8. So I wanted to say that on this call because it's hard to express that in words.
I want to pitch in a little bit on this. So one of the things that you just covered really well is that, yes, like the backend took the initiative of having that part done. And even though we were anticipating that to be tackled by Winnie, he has so much stuff on his plate and he's going on holiday that he won't be able to make it. Just this is more for everyone to be aware of what's happening.
Sure.
And I just talked to Constance, and it seems like he will be able to pick that up on Monday to move the implementation that the backend did to move it to Vue. So I have no issues in doing that in two merge requests. Like the first merge request goes in like it is, the second goes after and clears it up, hopefully still in 11.7, just like you were saying. The only thing that I would maintain is that it still has to be reviewed by a maintainer, and the maintainer has to be okay with the current state as it is, knowing that right after will come an implementation of Vue. So we should never merge anything that is not acceptable.
Master shouldn't be broken from the standard of a front-end maintainer. Exactly. Yeah, that's the standard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I would only, my only reservation is that we still have to get it through front-end review with that note, and if the maintainer accepts that, then it's fine. We do follow it right away. Yeah. And if not, we're just like by the end of this thing unfolds, Constance will probably be on it already, so he'll be able to pick it up and finish it. But I'm fine in having two merge requests clearing the issue. I don't have a problem with that. And so I would say just go ahead. The only thing is just like, don't close the issue when the first merge request goes in.
Okay.
Wait for the second one to be cleared. But yeah, otherwise I don't have any.
I would have thought we just create two separate issues, but in this case, I don't really care. It's more of like micro process that like, we don't have to.
We can consider that once we see that it doesn't make it on 11.7. If you want to close this issue because it is a feature available, you might want to put it on the blog post. But in that case, we might create a separate issue to deal with that. But if we can make it on 11.7, we just use the same issue. So,
I think so. Yeah.
Sean, do you have anything to add to this?
Nope, sounds good.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Great. And I wanted to add what did I want to add to that? I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, no, obviously I agree with everything there. Okay. I remember. Yeah, I remember what I wanted to say. Like, I don't know if this is, maybe this is a question then. Like, I don't know if engineering or engineers in general ever think that like this approach is more work end to end. Like, and maybe it may not be, but I wanted to say that at least for me, I'm totally fine if it's more work end to end. Like the fact that you had to create another MR, that you had to do this whole process again, it should be more work, right? But like but my point is that the way we do split up work issues into really small pieces, by definition, that is more work, right? But the whole point is that we've agreed or we've known with like software development it is more work end to end, but then you're actually delivering iterations faster. So I think this is a great example of that, and I wanted to call that out.
Yeah, I agree to that. I think it's also a side effect of this case where we're picking things as we go along, as we're free, and there are cases like this one that are shared between the back end and the front end.
Exactly. No, that's a really good point.
And then the front end is not assigned yet, so he's like, I can do this, and he goes ahead and takes it. And I think it's okay, because in the end of the day, we deliver that feature faster. I think it is very important that we have a good communication between the back end and the front end. In this, just like we did on the checklist case that when Brad was assigned, I got Fatih to jump in and start talking with him to avoid this mismatch of availability. So that's more about us maintaining this awareness that whenever you pick something up that has another label, like the front end picks it up, it has a back end label, keep it in sync, announce it, see if anyone is already ready to jump on it and stuff like that. But otherwise, just the process happening.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I didn't even think about it from the front end, back end perspective. I think this is another good example, and I would say that this is not bad, right? This is, you could say it's a cost of doing it this way, but it's like, it's just benefit. Like the benefits outweigh the cost, right? The benefit being we have a flat list, we can move quickly, we can iterate. And it's just the nature of this process, which I think is better overall. Cool. So incident management, this one is the issue type thing that I think I posted and Sean posted on Slack, so people can read through this. So one thing I just wanted to ask in terms of process is, if you look at the issue, I keep asking Josh to provide a design from their perspective, and then Josh keeps asking me like, no, I want plan to have a design, whether it's like technical or visual design. So I think there's a little bit of like mismatch of expectations and things like this, which I think is totally fine, because it's rare that we collaborate cross like stage. So I wanted to highlight that and get people's thought, or maybe Sean in particular, since you've been involved in Yan, like, do you think, or yeah, maybe just your initial thoughts before I sort of bias you or push you in ask you any question, like what can be improved, or like what
I think it's always hard to go first, because if we go first, we might say a bunch of stuff that's irrelevant to what they want to design, and if they go first, they might say a bunch of stuff that's irrelevant from a technical perspective. But for us, it's much easier to say what shouldn't be there than what should be there. Which is hard, because then it sounds like we're saying a bunch of stuff.
No's.
Like, it's just a bunch of no's, basically.
Yeah.
But like, you know, there are some no's where, you know, we say that if it's not going to appear in the issue lists, for instance, then it isn't an issue. I think is one thing that you mentioned in your recent comments. Or if it's got different states, and I think you mentioned resolutions, like Jira has states and resolutions, I think that's fine. But like, if it's got different states to an issue, then it's not an issue. If you actually need to remove a field as opposed to hiding it, then it's not an issue. Stuff like that. So I think, yeah, I do have a few more thoughts about that, because I'm going to try and get back to it tomorrow, but we were sort of talking about custom fields.
Right.
And I think it's related but different, because these fields are not user configurable.
Correct.
So the trick with custom fields is that they're applied to a project or a group or whatever, and then they're user configurable. And this on the surface is very similar, and it probably will use some of the same stuff, but it's got a very big difference in that we can, these are added globally as long as you have the license, right? And I think this is in core, so it's added globally for everybody. So
the issue types?
Yes. The incidents.
That was well, yeah. Per Josh, my understanding is he wants this at least initial version in core. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard for us to give too much of a technical opinion without there being a design, but it's also hard to give a design without knowing what's technically possible. Right.
Exactly. So I can see where Josh is coming from, and I pinged him a couple more times to make sure that like I don't want to come off as being unhelpful, because we're not, and I also want to assume like good intention on his part. So I like where I initially came from, and so thank you for that, Sean, because that's how we've worked in the past, and I think we've had success, is that, come up with a very specific detailed design, what you intend to do, and then the engineering team will come back and say, yes, 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 no, 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 or maybe would you like to do this instead, right? And so that's the approach. I wanted to ask with Sean, are you trying to say something? You're muted.
No, he's on a phone call.
Okay. Yeah, no. I just wanted to say that that's the approach I took with Josh, saying like, oh, tell me what you want with incident management, and then we'll come back with a response in terms of both like product design and architecture and technical, not just technical design, but like how do we see issues evolving, and how do we support like your needs from an incident management perspective. And then I think where Josh is coming from, which is as valid, is saying, what do you think of, like, what is Plan's vision of issue types, and like what is the circle and framework? Tell me that, and then I can play in that space to invent and innovate in incident management. So I think they're both valid, and we need to like give a little bit on both sides.
Yeah, and another thing that I wanted to mention is that a lot of the stuff that's mentioned is perhaps not stuff for an MVC, which seems like it's off topic, but it is important to have that longer term perspective.
Right.
Because we don't want to do like 3 iterations on this and then realize, oh, actually, we always knew we were going to do this, which means it should have been an issue from the start, or it couldn't be an issue from the start.
Right.
We just need to like migrate everything over, because that would be bad. So I think Jan's also been commenting on this, and I think Jan and I can try maybe tomorrow to set out some things that we say are definitely not
like
acceptable for like
posts and fences for
exactly. Just fences, like just say like if it has this, it's not an issue type. If it has this, it's not an issue type. And then at least they can use that to sort of make that decision. Like that's not to say that we can't like add things to that in future or take things off that list, but I think we've got a pretty good idea of like things that we
what's feasible.
We know are like bright lines right now. Jan, does that sound fair?
Yes.
Has the power gone out, Jan, or something?
Yes, I completely agree with you. I'm regarding this. I'm still getting back to the custom fields, because, as you mentioned before, I believe that this is partially related, because if we want custom fields for issues anyway, and we say at the same time that each issue type can have only additional fields, then I expect that we should consider using custom fields as architecture solution for issue types. If you know what I mean.
Right, it makes sense.
Yes, we should talk about that. Yes, and if we do want to do that, we should let the monitoring team know as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I like to clarify this before we decide, for example, to say, okay, each of issue type will be represented by a separate table or completely separate model, because then if we later find out that we need custom fields for issues anyway, we could use the same approach for all types. So that's the only point. But we can continue in discussing this in the issue.
Pedro, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, as you very well pointed out in the issue itself, like taking the mock-up from the presentation, I linked as a related issue the issue where we discussed that vision design. And as with everything that we do for vision, it has to be rethought from scratch almost, right? This was just done for the presentation just to get it out really quickly. And I think for this particular case, even though we might think that the best approach could be eventually to have like issue types or to have this in the issues list or whatever, I think for this particular case, and since the intention to have this comes primarily from monitoring and not necessarily from planning, I think we couldn't have better ideas and have better solutions if we let the monitoring team drive this. And then along the way, and I think this is what I'm saying is similar, if not the same, as you said in the issue, Victor.
Right.
Which is then we have touch points where we can align in terms of experience, in terms of front end, back end, all of that, and see so what I'm saying essentially is monitoring devices. What is the MVC? What they think is the best solution to solve their problems for incident management, and then with our help, we can see and align the MVC and what we can do from the issue side, if it's like the first version, if it's an issue type, or if we go all out and create another separate area just for incidents, because that's what's in the vision design, right? The idea would be to have a separate list inside of operations just for incidents, and incidents would be completely separated from issues. I don't know if that's the best idea or not. I think to have a really good solution, we need specific designers from monitoring working on it, and thinking in depth about what they think is the best solution for incidents. And then we meet halfway.
So is it fair, Pedro, like just to get very specific, you would expect that a monitor designer, who's that? That's not
Amelia and Sarah.
Yeah, so that they would get together, drive the design forward for incidents, obviously, but even they would have some opinions of like how an issue list would work with all issues, and then they would collaborate with you closely to refine that design, but that they would work closely, that they should be owning that.
Yeah, I think they should be owning that and be like, just go all out and think that they have no restrictions at all, and just do what they think could be the best. If we didn't have issues at all, if we didn't have boards at all, what would be the best solution to solve the incident management? So that would be like a really big product discovery. And then maybe we could start to funnel down and see, okay, how we can restrict this for the first iterations, knowing that this is the vision. And I also think this can be a really good as exercise for us in the plant side, because if we have people from other areas, and especially Sarah and Amelia, they haven't been very long with us. They're fairly new to the company, to the product. The ideas that they might have regarding incidents, they can have great ideas that we might be able to port over to use issues. And if we are doing it from the plan side, we are already very
limited. Yeah, we're
going to design a solution that fits what we think is the easiest. To be great,
So what
is laughing? I don't know if it's regarding what I said.
So what I'll do, Pedro, is I'll leave a message for Josh again. But what I'll do specifically is I'll tag Josh, I'll tag Amelia, and so is this like the third Sarah, or is this one of the existing Sarah?
It's the third Sarah.
The third Sarah. I remember like there's got to be a third Sarah, and so. And I'll tag them, and I'll link to this video. So I'm really glad that we have it, and I'll link specifically to this time so they don't have to watch all our boring stuff.
Long paragraph.
And then we'll get them to respond and make sure we're aligned, because this is all our thinking and how we want to approach the problem.
That's a really good idea. Yeah.
YouTube links for the win, and also like the fact that YouTube you can link to the timestamp whenever they introduced that feature, like maybe like 10 years ago. It's been there forever. I know. That's a great. I think that'll be good to get everybody on board as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing this up, Victor.
Yeah, no, this is good.
I wanted to bring something else up, by the way. I added to the agenda, but on the create side, we're starting to investigate and think about the problem of design management on GitLab, especially as this is a big thing in our roadmap for 2019. So right now this is still ongoing, but I feel like this is slightly related. So I'm going to share very quickly the stage that we're at, so we can take any information from it. So this is the proposal that Jeetu has brought forward like 5 hours ago. So this is still ongoing, but instead of going onto the project, onto the issues, and using a design artifact as a type of issue, the solution that we're going for is completely a separate entity, a top level entity that has a couple of similarities with issues, but
Ah,
it's significantly different because it has different versions. Each version has different screens. Each screen that can have notes or can have discussions on them that are resolvable. So this is more like a mix between issues and merge requests in itself. So it's a completely different entity. So that we're going that with a separate thing. However, again, and then the rest of it is very specific, so it's not really related to this part. However, it's a top level thing on the project alongside issues, not within issues. By doing this, we do lose the ability of using every feature related to issues. For example, I've seen an engineering manager today or yesterday asking for boards for merge requests. By using types of issues, you will be able to overload those features onto this incidents, for example. You will be able to create a board only with incidents, for example. Yeah. Whereas in this case, we won't. But this is the road that we're considering taking. I kind of agree with it for now. For the incidents in specific, I kind of think it makes sense as a type of issue, but I just wanted to bring this up as it's a slightly similar thing, but we're choosing another approach.
No, this is
at least for now.
Perfect, Andre, because I'm gonna just hijack your issue and just like show to the monitoring team, like not monitoring. Like this is, I think, would be a great example of, like this is exactly the discussion we should be having with monitoring. Like the same thing with design. Like you come up with this exactly like Pedro said. It's just crazy, awesome design idea, and then we consider the trade-offs, right? Like, do we make it an issue type or not an issue type? What are the trade-offs? And so on and so forth. But there's like very tangible designs there from G2 on.
And don't ask for permission, right?
Exactly.
Just do it. And if I think in this case, it's a matter of who feels more passionate about certain thing, right? And if monitoring is very passionate about incident management and they have the time and resources to do it even better than we do, just do it and we can sync up along the way.
That's perfect. Thank you for sharing that, Andre. I'll definitely share that issue in all the communications. All right, we still have time. Pedro, go for it.
Final point. So from yesterday's UX call, and this was also shared in the product call, if I'm not mistaken. But for everyone else, we're the UX team, every UXer in their own area. So in this case, me and Annabelle for Plan. For this milestone and also the next couple of ones, we're going to add some labels to the issues. So don't freak out. It's the depth, breadth, and UI polish labels to all of the issues where we are involved, where UX is involved. And the goal here is to see how much time we spend on each of these things, on each of these vectors of work. And yeah, nothing really for your action, just a FYI.
When you say we, is that UX or GitLab?
UX.
Okay.
UX. And I mean, I don't know, maybe this would change.
It might be useful for front end as well. So that's what I was just thinking. But yeah, thanks for that info.
Well, yeah, no, let's see how it goes with UX and if it makes sense to make it broader. I saw this, like Sarah announced it somewhere over. I was looking in some channel, but I did see this earlier, and I'm excited like that there is some initiative to actually try to quantify this. I don't love that we're using labels because we say like we don't want to like clutter our issues with labels, but like I'm the last person to complain about that because we need to fix that for our users. so this is yet another reason to do so. All right, awesome. Anything else from the people remaining on this call? I think there's 5 people remaining. If not, I will put this on YouTube and have a good rest of the day, and whenever we meet next, it might be next year. But
see you all next year.
Yeah.